A wealthy Democratic donor has just threatened to leave the party if they keep criticizing rich people. You'll love this story. Speaking to MSNBC, timeshare resort and casino magnate Stephen Cloobeck was very unhappy about the Democrats criticizing wealthy people for their role in, for example, exacerbating income inequality. Now, in this segment, MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle began to talk about progressives lashing out at rich people who are actually concerned about the massive gap between the rich and the poor and how the wealthy have too much influence in our politics. Now, she is not in favor of the progressive side and actually is siding with Cloobeck. Let's take a look.
Down with the billionaires. We can't stand the rich. A lot of people want to be rich. So is it the right message that the Democrats are going with?
It's so effing wrong.
Whoa.
I've talked to Schumer. I've talked to Wyden. I've talked to Pelosi.
And said what?
And I said, if you use the term billion again, I'm done.
Why?
Because it's aspirational. I didn't start with anything. Just penalize everyone that's done well. We all want to do well. And we should be the party of doing well. We should be a party of business and leadership. And it is very, very disturbing when I hear the millionaire or billionaire word. And I've told them to stop it, knock it off. Because everyone wants to do really well. And this is the world of the aspirations.
Translation, oh my God, stop hurting my feelings. If I hear the billionaire word again, but you are a billionaire, if I hear that word again, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with the party. I'm going to stop giving. We need to be the aspirational party, but the party of business. Okay. Well, that's very clear where you stand. See, here's the thing, right? Now, she does, as Ruhle says, well, look, everybody wants to be rich, right? Well, you know what? There's a lot of people that want opportunity, and guess what? They don't have that opportunity anymore. You know why? Because there's a lot of wealthy people that are hoarding the money. And look, I'll even contest that not everybody wants to be rich. I think there are a lot of people, most people, they just want to make sure that they and their families are taken care of, that they can afford health care, a good education for their kids, and not actually have to worry about, you know, not being able to make the rent or the electric bill. And the problem here in America is that there's so many people now that no longer have the opportunity to be able to make it into the middle class, to be able to do that. And again, because there's no more upward mobility, because all that money, all that opportunity is now being held by a very, very few amount of people. Okay. Now you want to talk about aspirational. We don't really we're not really aspiring to have our CEO pay less in taxes than we do. That's insane. Through our crazy tax system filled with loopholes, we end up having billionaire CEOs. Yes, I'm using that word. Get triggered all you want. That actually pay less in taxes than their secretary. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. Now, here's the other piece of that entire argument as well. And it pretty much comes from the neoliberal conservative playbook. He says, why are you penalizing people who've done well? See, that's the thing. They're like, taxes, God, why are taxes such a penalty on the rich? But that's not what they are. Taxes are how you pay for shit. Look, you want roads? You need to pay for them from taxes. You want power lines? Taxes. You want safe drinking water? Taxes. By the way, Flint still does not have safe drinking water. How about the money to pay for infrastructure while we're on the subject? You know, infrastructure that actually creates good paying jobs. That comes from taxes. But to this guy, this business owner, right, taxes are a punishment. And he doesn't want to give back to a country that has given him the opportunity to become wealthy. Now, this guy, he said, well, I started with nothing, right? You may believe that you started with Nothing, right? But you had a public education that was financed by taxes. There were colleges and universities that were also partly funded by taxpayer money. Let's go more basic than that, okay, than just education. You wouldn't be anywhere if you didn't have safe drinking water paid for by taxes, the infrastructure, of course, again, financed by taxes. You wouldn't be where you are if the many bridges that you had to cross had collapsed on you, but didn't, because taxpayer money was there to make sure that those buildings were up to code, to make sure that those bridges didn't fall on you. Look, people pay taxes in order to make society work. And look, wealthy people have to pay a majority of that money. Why? It's because that's where all the money is. You have to go to who has the most money. And when you tax a rich person more than a poor person, it's going to impact the rich person less because they still have more money. And that's the issue. That's what you have to think about. But he's looking at it as a situation as, no. Why should you tax my gains? Because you have all the money. It's, again, a lot of the situations where somebody is taxed, where someone who is wealthy is taxed, that money ends up going to help create the opportunities for someone else to end up being wealthy and successful, to get educated, to make sure that they have basic infrastructure so they can go on to achieve wealth, so they can go on to create their own businesses and create jobs. He doesn't understand that. This guy doesn't get it. So he reaches out to Pelosi and Schumer and he says, knock it off. Knock it off. Well, on the subject of Pelosi and Schumer, they're going to get a challenge by progressives. And those progressives, they're going to win. Now, of course, these Stephanie Ruhle and Mr. Cloobeck, they're going to deny that. In fact, they're going to do that in this next video. Watch.
Are you worried that the Democratic Party is going too far to the left?
So much so, it drives me nuts. So much so, it would make me quit the party. And I've made it very clear, I'll cut your money off. And others will do the same. We've had enough.
Okay,
we need a new brand.
And what is that brand? Because right now there is an opportunity. If Democrats lose, for example, in the state of Virginia, if that isn't a wake-up call that the Democratic leadership needs to get together and say, we've got to find a middle ground. Because if the Democrats continue to go far to the left, you've got that whole group in the center that aren't going to go the way of Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. And then you're going to fracture the party even more.
It's fractured. It's broken. We need a new brand. It needs to be simple. Keep it simple. Tax reform, keep it simple. Infrastructure, no bumps in the road. What more do we have to say? They need to have a new brand created.
Is the Democratic Party in worse shape than Republicans?
They're both insane.
Oh, man. This guy does not have a clue. No, hey, look, if we... Oh, by the way, before I get into that. This is on the supposed liberal network, MSNBC. If anybody thinks MSNBC is a liberal, I got a bridge to sell you. But, again, I love this, right? Rules like, oh, if we don't run to the center, then we're going to lose, and we could lose. I mean, the Democrats are already too far left. Really? You might want to tell that to the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, who actually in Virginia, that same race that you thought, oh, if we run too far to the left, we're going to lose, won a staggering amount of victories on Tuesday. For example, progressives won a lot of seats in the House of Delegates. Got one good example, Lee Carter. Lee Carter was a Marine Corps veteran and an open socialist, ran as a Democrat, and defeated the GOP whip by a large margin. You know what he ran on? He ran on single-payer and opposing fracking pipelines. Over a dozen Democratic socialists and progressives end up getting they got swept into office on this gigantic blue wave. And this guy thinks, no, what we have to focus on is cutting taxes for the rich And that includes myself. I'm a billionaire, millionaire, even though you're not supposed to say that because that's rude. And that we actually have to run to the center, which actually, to be honest with you, is actually running further to the right. He thinks that's going to win elections. He would appear to be wrong. Stephanie Ruhle would appear to be wrong. Now, as for cutting off his money to the Democrats, oh, please do. We don't need your dirty, right-wing, stinking corporate money. Take it and go join the Republican Party. Lee Carter relied on mostly small donors and democratically aligned groups for his funding. Bernie Sanders made his run against the most powerful and most well-funded politician in America, Hillary Clinton, on donor money and nearly won. $27 at a time, man. The era of big donors having control over politicians is coming to an end. Now that we can fund politicians ourselves a little bit at a time. They no longer need to suck up to these donors, but unfortunately the Democratic Party isn't going in that direction, and neither is the Republican Party, by the way. Look, if you want to cut off the Democratic Party, I think that's a wonderful idea. Go be in the right wing where you belong. While over here, on the left, progressives and progressive policies and progressive politicians will continue to win. So, hey, Steven, got a message for you. You wanna take your money and leave? You want to pick up your ball and go home? Got 2 words for you. Bye, Felicia. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.